In the stillness of the forest, where the trees rise like ancient sentinels and the air is filled with the fresh scent of nature, there exists a path that leads to wisdom. This path, however, is not always clear. It is winding, uncertain, and hidden beneath layers of distractions. Along this path, there are not only obstacles we can see, but subtle traps and dangers that lurk just out of view. Unseen poisons that silently drain our energy and leave us feeling empty, weary, and disconnected from our true selves. These poisons do not strike with force or violence. They are not the kind of dangers we can fight with our fists or shield ourselves from with armor. Instead, they infiltrate our lives slowly, almost imperceptibly, disguising themselves as comfort, pleasure, and even love. They appear at first to offer relief, to soothe our spirits, and to bring happiness. But over time, we begin to feel a shift. A sense of unease creeps in, and the joy we once felt starts to fade. We become anxious, restless, and exhausted. Life, once full of light, begins to feel heavier, as if we are carrying a burden that we cannot put down. The wise ones who have walked this path before us understood this well. They spoke not just of the physical toxins that pollute our bodies, but also of the invisible poisons that cloud our minds and spirits. The Buddha once said, "What you attach yourself to determines whether you rise or fall. Attach yourself to things that lift your spirit, and you will rise. Attach yourself to things that lower your energy, and you will sink." It is through these unseen poisons that we lower our vibration, dimming the light within us. But what exactly are these poisons? And how can we recognize them before they take hold of us? Let me share with you the story of a traveler, a story not unlike our own, who set out to find wisdom. But the wisdom he sought was not given in a single moment of revelation. No, it was learned through experience, through the trials, the struggles, and the lessons that shaped his soul. It was through the 7 poisons that he came to understand the true nature of life and the path to freeing himself from their grip. The traveler's journey through the 7 poisons, the journey to wisdom, is not a straight path. It winds through forests, crosses turbulent rivers, and climbs daunting mountains. The traveler, eager for enlightenment, set forth on such a journey. He was determined to find the source of true wisdom. Yet little did he know that the greatest teachings would come not from the sage he sought, but from the very trials and challenges he would face along the way. Each trial he encountered carried with it a poison, an unseen force capable of lowering his vibration, clouding his mind, and draining his spirit. These poisons, subtle but powerful, took many forms. The traveler would need to learn the hard way how to identify and overcome them. His path was not only a journey of discovery, but also one of self-liberation. Trial 1. Negative speech. One day, after many days of traveling, the traveler stumbled upon a quiet valley. The sun was setting, casting golden hues across the landscape, and the air was calm. It seemed like a peaceful place to rest. As he walked through the valley, he came across a group of men sitting together, laughing loudly. Their voices filled the air, but something about them made the traveler pause. They spoke to one another with sharp words, mocking those who were not present, and filling the space with gossip and criticism. Feeling a sense of loneliness after days of solitude, the traveler decided to join them. He sat quietly at the edge of their group, listening to their conversations. At first, it seemed harmless. The laughter was infectious, and the words didn't seem to affect him. But as the evening wore on, the traveler began to feel something strange. His heart grew heavier with each passing moment, and his thoughts became clouded with judgment and criticism. He found himself thinking less about his journey and more about the faults of others. The voices of the men echoed in his mind, replaying the harsh words and judgments. That night, he lay awake, unable to sleep. The words of the men were like a persistent whisper in his ears, stealing his peace. He realized then that words carry energy, whether spoken or heard. The energy of speech attaches itself to the soul, and in this case, it had attached itself to him, weighing down his spirit. The next morning, the traveler left the valley with a heavy heart. He had learned an invaluable lesson. Negative speech, whether it's our own or that of others, clouds the mind and drags the soul down. He vowed never again to indulge in negativity, for he understood that words, both spoken and heard, carry an unseen power that affects our energy. Trial 2. Toxic food and drink. As he journeyed further, the traveler came upon a feast. The air was rich with the smell of roasting meats and sweet, intoxicating drinks. Travelers and wanderers gathered around the table, eating and drinking with great joy. The host, a jovial man with a warm smile, invited the traveler to join. At first, the traveler hesitated. He had walked long and hard, and the temptation of the food and drink was great. But hunger eventually overcame him, and he sat down to partake in the feast. The food was delicious, rich, flavorful, and filling, and the drink was sweet and intoxicating. The traveler ate more than he should have, allowing the pleasure of the moment to take over. The next morning, the traveler awoke feeling sluggish. His body was heavy, and his mind felt foggy, as if the clarity he had once carried was no longer present. The indulgence of the previous night had dulled both his body and his spirit. He realized that the pleasures of the moment had stolen something far more valuable, his clarity of thought and his vitality. From that day forward, the traveler was careful about what he consumed. He understood that the body and spirit are interconnected. When we nourish one, we nourish the other, and when we poison one, we poison the other. He chose to nourish himself with food and drink that would sustain his body and elevate his spirit, for he now knew that the energy we consume through our food and drink affects our vibration. Trial 3. Holding on to anger. On another leg of his journey, the traveler came across a merchant. He exchanged some coins for supplies, but later discovered that the merchant had deceived him. He had received far less than he had paid for. Anger surged within him, burning hot in his chest. He considered confronting the merchant, demanding justice, or perhaps even fighting him. His thoughts became consumed with the idea of revenge. But then, as if in a moment of clarity, he remembered a piece of wisdom he had learned along the way. Holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal. You are the one who gets burned. The traveler paused, took a deep breath, and let go of his anger. In that instant, his mind cleared and his heart lightened. The weight that had been pressing upon him was lifted. The traveler realized that anger, though it arises naturally in response to injustice, is a poison. It harms not the one who angered us, but ourselves. By holding on to anger, we are only drinking from a cup of poison that slowly burns away our peace. He chose peace instead of conflict, releasing his anger and continuing on his journey with a lighter heart. Trial 4. Attachment to the past. Further along, the traveler arrived at an ancient ruin. An old man sat by the remains of what had once been a grand house. The traveler approached and asked, "What is this place?" The old man replied, "This was once my home. I had a family, a fortune, and happiness, but the winds of fate took them away. Now, I come here every day, hoping to feel what I once felt." The traveler felt a deep sadness in his heart. He saw how the old man was trapped by the past, unable to move forward. His attachment to what had once been was chaining his soul, preventing him from living fully in the present moment. The traveler reflected that clinging to the past is like trying to walk forward while looking backward. It's impossible to make progress while constantly looking behind. He learned that while the past is important, it must not be allowed to dictate our present or our future. The traveler left the old man and vowed to honor his memories without allowing them to hold him back from living fully in the present. Trial 5. Surrounding yourself with low-energy people. One day, the traveler encountered a group of people who were lost in their own misery. They complained constantly about their lives, spoke only of their misfortunes, and saw no light in the world. The traveler tried to offer words of encouragement, but soon he began to notice something unsettling. Their negativity was draining him. Their complaints and hopelessness weighed on his energy, pulling him down into their darkness. He understood then that the people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on our energy. If we are surrounded by those who wish to remain in the mud, we cannot rise. The traveler knew that in order to protect his own energy, he had to distance himself from those who were unwilling to change. He left the group behind, knowing that he could not lift others if they were unwilling to lift themselves. His journey was his own, and he could only control the energy he brought into it. Trial 6. Living without purpose. As the traveler neared the mountain where the great sage lived, he met a man wandering aimlessly, without direction. The traveler asked, "Where are you going?" "I do not know," the man replied. "I simply follow wherever the wind takes me." The traveler shivered at the thought of such a life without purpose, like a boat adrift at sea, never reaching any shore. Without purpose, everything becomes meaningless, and every day feels the same. The traveler understood then that his own journey was guided by a clear purpose. It was his purpose that had propelled him forward through each trial. Without purpose, he too could have been lost. He realized that living without purpose invites emptiness into the soul. Purpose gives life meaning, direction, and fulfillment. Trial 7. Fear. Finally, as the traveler reached the summit of the mountain, a fierce storm broke out. The wind howled, lightning flashed, and the traveler felt fear grip his heart. For a moment, he considered turning back. The storm was violent, and the fear was real. But then he remembered, fear is the last illusion before transformation. It is the final gatekeeper, appearing just before we are about to grow. With courage, the traveler took one step forward, then another. As he continued through the storm, he noticed that his fear began to dissolve. The fear was not real. It was merely a shadow, a trick of the mind. When he reached the top of the mountain, he realized something profound. The master he had sought was not at the summit. The true wisdom had come through the journey itself. Through each of the 7 trials, the traveler had learned the true nature of life and the poisons that lower his vibration. He walked away not just wiser, but lighter, free from the 7 poisons that had once threatened to drag him down. The traveler's journey reveals an essential truth. To raise our vibration, we must first identify and release the things that lower it. Negative speech, toxic food, anger, attachment to the past, low-energy people, a life without purpose, and fear. These are the poisons that weigh us down. They infiltrate our lives subtly, draining us of energy and keeping us trapped in a cycle of negativity. But the moment we begin to let go of these poisons, we start to rise. We feel lighter, our hearts become clearer, and we experience a deeper sense of peace. Every choice we make has the potential to elevate or diminish our energy. What we speak, what we consume, and who we surround ourselves with. All of these things shape our vibration. If we speak kindly, our energy remains light. If we nourish our bodies with wholesome foods, we strengthen our physical and spiritual connection. By releasing anger and forgiving the past, we free ourselves from emotional burdens that block our growth. Choosing to surround ourselves with uplifting people who inspire and encourage us also amplifies our energy. Living with purpose gives us direction, filling each day with meaning, while walking through our fears with courage transforms them into stepping stones toward personal growth. Raising our vibration isn't about avoiding life or pretending the challenges don't exist. It's about making conscious choices to move through life with awareness and intention. It's about realizing that we have the power to create the energy we want to experience. Each step toward releasing what holds us back is a step toward greater peace, clarity, and wisdom. So, I invite you to reflect on your own life. What poisons are you holding on to? Is there negative speech or toxic food that drains your energy? Do anger or attachments from the past still weigh you down? Are you surrounded by people who lift you, or do they drain your spirit? What is your purpose, and how can you walk through fear with courage today? If you found these lessons helpful, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect and make a commitment to protect your energy. Let me know in the comments what you're releasing, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on living a peaceful, elevated life. May you walk the path of peace and wisdom, always moving forward.